Hey man, I hope somebody takes something from this message today. Um, I know I'm dedicated to giving you all these Sunday videos, so whatever that looks like is what it's gonna look like. But I think today, right, I'm realizing even though we're human, right, we can't really see God's full perspective. That's impossible. You feel what I'm saying? But it's like this. When you're a father, right, and you look at your son or you look at your daughter or whatever, you have at least a little inkling of God's experience looking at you, right? And one of the things that I've really been thinking about since changing my name, right? The purpose of changing the name was to get as close to the authentic reality and the genuine reality that is for me as possible. And that's not a one all be all thing. That's not just something you make one move and all of a sudden everything just boom boom. No, like in reality, it's a lot easier to be what you've been versus be what you are to be or what you want to be or whatever because you've spent more time doing that. So, one thing that I was thinking about while I was in the shower, right? I was thinking like when God crafted the world, and not only when God crafted the world, but when God, let's start there. When God crafted the world, he was being intentional. God was being intentional, right? In my perspective. If you have a different perspective, that's okay. If you don't believe in God, whatever, that's cool too. But God was being intentional. He was being purposeful with every single move, right? On this day, it was something specific. On this day, it was something specific. Let there be light, boom, boom, rest on this day. He was being very specific, intentional, purposeful, and there was structure in what he was creating. I also believe when God created us, God had a vision, right? When we're born, when we come into the world, God has a vision for our lives. You see what I'm saying? Now, our free will allows us to diverge from that vision. Our free will allows us to walk away from that vision. Our free will allows us to really reject that vision and create our own, right? And I think that your personal experience is perfectly crafted for you, but the decisions that you make along the way decide how close you get to that vision that was crafted for you. Now the thing is, the vision that's crafted for you is the one where you're going to be most at peace. But it could also be counterintuitive because of what you think you want, or because of what you want because the world wants you to want it, or because of you want because you want to look a certain way or whatever. That could be completely different from the vision that's being crafted for you. So a lot of the times it's counterintuitive to follow that vision. And I feel like you can feel what that vision is if you align, right? Or have ever been in alignment at one point, or have ever been moved by your excitement or whatever. You can feel what that feels like. And I think everybody has their own personal feeling. But the one thing I really started thinking about, I'm like, if God crafted the world with purpose and intention, and God crafted us with purpose and intention, the best way that you're going to lean more into that alignment and get the most out of your life is purpose and intention. That just makes the most sense because you're creating in the same way that God created. Now, it's not to say that you're God for everybody that's going to be dramatic, right? But it's to say that God created with purpose and intention. So when you're creating or when you're living, right? I mean, every moment we're here, we're creating. In conversation, we're creating frequency. We're creating what this person is going to think. Like if I'm talking to you directly, our conversation is going to create a new reality for you moving forward, right? Because of that conversation, you might have something to say to your person at home or your parent at home or whatever that changes a conversation and leads to this, and that, right? So we're creating in every single moment that we're here. How intentional are we being with what we're creating? How intentional are we being with what we're saying? How intentional and purposeful are we being with the conversations that we're having? How intentional and purposeful are we being with every decision that we make on a day-to-day basis? In my experience, I've lived completely different. I've lived two completely different lives. The life where I have a schedule, I have a routine. I know it's, and I'm not saying I have to be rigid to it, but I have a schedule, I have a routine, I have a purpose, and I follow that. And most of these things are involving deeper connections with me, or the source of that routine is based in a principle, right? Relationship with self, working out, going out, having fun, boom, boom, all this different stuff. Relationship with others, connecting, activities, etc., etc. Relationship with my creativity, which is relationship with self, writing music, um, creating stories, all this different stuff, right? There's different ways. You got your love language, something I actually just went to a workshop about. We can talk about that at a different time. But when you have that foundation behind the routine and behind the structure, you it's damn near impossible to get away from your natural alignment. Now that might divert and boom boom because that's your purpose, but even when you are aligned, you have at least the struggles and the obstacles and all that were meant for you. And that's one thing I've been thinking about. Like, when you're in alignment, that doesn't mean that everything's going to be peaceful and perfect. It means that everything that happens to you was designed for you, right? So you're going to handle your hardships way differently than you're going to handle the hardships of somebody else, right? And when I say the hardships of somebody else, is because trying to be something other than you is going to create hardships that were not designed for you, blessings that were not designed for you. And if you're in alignment, right, all of these things feel purposeful and they feel like they're meant to be. They feel like, and I think that's another thing that Jesus was talking about, the good suffering, right? If you're within alignment and you're within purpose and you boom, boom, all the suffering that is going on in your life, etc., will feel different than the suffering that's not for you. And I think all of that starts with structure and alignment. And not only structure, the structure and the alignment will take you to a place where you have more free room, you have more free time to think and to reflect, etc. And the things that you're doing automatically are creating the foundation for connection with self, connection with what you believe in, and connection with others, which expands your human experience, which creates new possibilities, which if you allow yourself to do the things that excite you and that you love to do regardless and not overthink, you will start to build the reality that is designed for you. That's what I'm starting to realize. And that makes sense when you think to how God created the world, because God created the world with the same structure and the same perspective, right? That with this intention, if I'm purposeful with this intention and I'm focused and there's something that's supposed to, and I'm intentional and purposeful with this, everything that I know that I want to create afterwards will then be able to stack, right? Now, obviously, people say God knows everything, God is aware of everything, boom, boom. But um, it's like even within that, right? The free will of mankind and mankind doing all the things that it's doing, boom, boom. I know God would prefer it in another way, right? Or whatever. But it's a part of the process of allowing us to be and allowing us to make our own decisions. That's kind of like the obstacle in that analogy, right? The obstacle in the analogy of wanting to create free will in your creation, but then having to deal with your creation mutilating itself and destroying itself. Like that's the obstacle, right? So with us, we all have our own personal obstacles. We all got our own personal issues and our own personal hardships. But you want to get as close to the hardships that were made for you and the obstacles that were made for you as possible, so that the blessings that are made for you are possible as well. So, long story short, just a little rant, but yeah, I think structure and purpose and intention is what is necessary. And if you already knew that and you already understand that, that's great. But if you didn't, then yeah. So starting tomorrow, I mean, once I get off this video, I'm finna do this reaction to Crybaby by Vince Staples and then post that on my Patreon. Go ahead and tap in with the Patreon. for all music reactions and more. But I'm also gonna craft myself a schedule and a routine and make sure that my foundation is connection with self, connection with others, and connection with the source. Those are my three foundations. And I create my routine based on that foundation. What does that look like when my day is being crafted in that way? When all of my days are being crafted behind those three foundations, what would I do? And the last thing I want to say, which is actually supposed to be the main point of this video, that's why I'm ranting sometimes, is but it's not enough to just change everything to Jason, change that to my name, boom, boom. It's not enough to do that. But being intentional, what does Jason look like? And not just the Jason that I'm used to, but the ideal Jason. The highest version of Jason in my mind and in my body and spirit. What does that one look like? Because you have multiple timelines. You know, I could have my lowest version possible, which is doing just crazy stuff and boom, boom, all that different stuff. And then I have my highest version possible, right? Depending on who you want to be, because it's up to you. Me, I want to be my highest version possible. So I get to think, what does the highest version of Jason do on a day-to-day basis? What is the Jason over a 24-hour day? What does Jason's highest self live like? And based on that, create my foundation and go get that. And go as closest to that as possible. That's the purpose and intention that God created with this earth. Or with this world. You feel what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's all I really wanted to share. Appreciate y'all, man. Love y'all. Like, comment, subscribe, especially if you're new, especially if you've been here. We're going to do these Sunday videos every day. If I don't got, like, a storyline or whatever, then I'll just get on here and rant. I'm going to make sure I stay locked in on the Sundays. So, appreciate y'all. Love y'all.